we found an abandoned radio tower in the woods. Something was still broadcasting. This happened about 3 weeks ago. I'm 18, fresh out of high school, and I live in rural Oregon. Not the touristy parts with waterfalls and coffee shops, I mean deep woods, logging trails, and endless stretches of pine that all look the same after a while. My friends and I had always been the adventure types, not in the extreme sports way, but more like, let's go see what's down that dirt road kind of way. We were into urban exploring before we even knew that's what it was called. The real story starts when Nathan, the quiet guy in our group, told us about a radio tower. Not just any radio tower, he said it was a repeater station that hadn't been used since the 90s. According to him, he found an old post about it on some ham radio forum. The comments were weird. Someone mentioned that the tower still broadcasted something at night, even though it was decommissioned decades ago. Another said anyone who went looking for it never came back right. Creepy? Yeah, but we thought it was just nerd folklore. It was me, Nathan, and Brandon, our third friend, who never believed in anything and constantly called Nathan's finds glorified garbage hunts. But still, he came along every time. That Saturday, we loaded up into my old Ford Explorer and followed Nathan's offline map into the Tillamook backwoods. The trail started paved, then turned gravel, then just vanished into dirt. Tall trees swallowed the sky, and eventually we lost all signal. No GPS, no bars, just a dusty path ahead and dense green all around. After about 40 minutes, Brandon said we were lost. Nathan said we were close. I said nothing and kept driving. Eventually, the trees opened up into a clearing. It wasn't huge, but dead center was a 20-foot chain-link fence partly collapsed. Inside it stood the tower. It wasn't tall like a cell tower, maybe 40 feet max. The metal was rusted, red and brown from years of rain. A blocky concrete shed sat next to it, half covered in moss, the door hanging open. Nathan grinned. Told you. Brandon scoffed. Looks like it's already been looted. Still, we parked, grabbed flashlights, and hopped the fence. The inside of the shed was what you'd expect. Metal racks with old radio gear, some stripped wires, and water damage on the far wall. But here's the weird part. There was a faint humming. Soft, but definitely there. Coming from the back. We followed the sound to a square hatch in the floor, rusted shut, but pried open long ago. A narrow stairwell led down into complete darkness. Nathan looked at us. You brought masks? I asked. He nodded. Air might be bad. We slipped them on and descended. The air was cold, not just cool cold. I could feel the temperature drop with each step. Our flashlights cut through thick dust and the walls were lined with old insulation and thick cables. The basement opened into a larger room. And in the center was a radio console, the kind with analog dials, labeled switches, and a cracked glass panel. And it was on. One single green light glowed on the panel, and from a busted wall speaker above it came a faint looping voice. Unit 4, respond. Unit 4, respond. Same tone, same pacing. Over and over. Nathan's eyes were wide. No way, this place shouldn't even have power. Brandon reached for the console. Is it running on a battery? I looked closer. The wires were cut, not disconnected, cleanly snipped. Then, we heard something behind us. Dragging. Like metal being pulled across concrete, slow, long. muffled by the thick walls but unmistakable. We froze. Brandon whispered, "Turn off the lights." And we did. Darkness swallowed us. The dragging continued, closer. Then it stopped. Then started again, this time from a different direction. Like something was circling us. I felt sweat build under my mask. Nathan whispered, "We should go." Brandon didn't respond. A moment later, we heard something crash loudly. Metal on metal. Then, the voice from the speaker glitched. "UNITF," or "Respo," and "Respo." Then silence. The panic. Brandon bolted. We followed. I was second. Nathan behind me. The stairwell felt like it stretched longer than before. Halfway up, I heard Nathan shout, then a sickening thud. I turned around and saw nothing. Just pitch black below. I hesitated for half a second. But then I saw his hand on the steps, pulling himself up. He limped hard. His ankle was twisted weirdly. Brandon grabbed one arm, I grabbed the other, and we hauled him into the daylight. We didn't say a word on the way back. At the hospital, Nathan's ankle was shattered. The doctor said it looked like he'd fallen off a small building. He couldn't walk for 2 weeks, needed screws put in. But he kept saying the same thing over and over. I didn't trip. Something grabbed me. I didn't know what to believe. 5 days later, Brandon realized his camera bag was missing. Not the camera, the whole bag. He swore he left it near the tower fence. We agreed to go back just to the entrance, not underground. The tower was still there, same rust, same silence. And so was the camera bag. Except it was open, and inside was a photo, one we didn't take. It showed the three of us, standing in the basement, staring at the console. The photo was dark, grainy, but it was definitely us. Only we had never taken it, and none of our cameras were set on a timer. Then I noticed something else. In the far corner of the photo, in the shadows, there was a figure. Bent, long arms, no face, just leaning like it was watching. We left, fast. Nathan doesn't talk much anymore. Brandon refuses to go anywhere off-grid. As for me, sometimes, late at night, I scan through radio static just for background noise. But every now and then I hear it. Unit 4. Respond. I don't listen for long. I'm not sure what would happen if I answered. It's been 3 weeks since I left that place, and I still can't sleep without the lights on. The doctors say my leg will heal, but no one's saying anything about the voices I hear in my head, especially when it's quiet. Last night, I found something under my bed that wasn't mine, something that belonged to Sam. There were 3 of us that night. Sam, the mystery guy, obsessed with legends, maps, and things that should stay buried. Derek, my best friend since school, a complete skeptic, sarcastic even when he's scared. And me, Kyle, the guy who always says yes just to keep the peace. We weren't ghost hunters, we weren't thrill seekers. We were just bored and stupid, looking for something different on a long weekend. Sam found it. We drove out of town around 9 p.m. The road twisted through a pine forest, fog creeping like fingers across the pavement. No signal, no signs, just Sam's scribbled map and his voice saying, "It's real, guys, I swear. The structure's been marked since the 1800s. Locals avoid it like it's cursed." The deeper we drove, the quieter it got. No birds, no headlights, just the crunch of tires on gravel and our engine's hum echoing off trees. By midnight, we reached the clearing. It looked like an old power station, or maybe a military bunker. Half sunken in the earth, metal doors rusted and pulled open. Concrete walls were cracked, vines crawling over faded warning signs. Do not enter. Experimental site. Sam grinned. This is it. Derek rolled his eyes. This is lame. I hesitated, shivering despite the warm night. Something about it felt wrong, like we weren't supposed to be there, like we weren't welcome. The air inside was cold, way colder than it should have been. My breath fogged up. It smelled like metal and mildew, like water that hadn't moved in years. Our footsteps echoed in a way that didn't make sense. The sound bounced, then came back too fast, too sharp. Flashlights cut through the dark, revealing strange hallways, stairs that spiraled downward, and walls with deep scratch marks. Everything felt off, like the laws of space weren't working right here. Then we heard it. A whistle, soft, low, and inhuman, coming from below. Then a scraping sound, like nails dragging along steel. Derek froze. Nope, done, I'm out. Sam whispered, wait, listen. And just like that, all our flashlights went off. Dead, all three. Total blackness swallowed us. We stood in silence, hearing our own breathing, until we heard something else breathing with us. There was a sudden scream, sharp and full of terror. Sam's voice echoing like he was far away. Then thud. I turned my phone light on. Sam was gone. His flashlight lay spinning on the floor, flickering. Derek found him minutes later, his arm sliced open, blood smearing the floor. I didn't see it, Sam whispered, eyes wild. I didn't see anything, but it was there. His backpack was gone, and so was the map. We ran. Sam could barely walk, and I half dragged him through the woods. Derek kept looking behind, saying, "Did you hear that? It's following us." By the time we reached the car, Sam had passed out. At the hospital, the doctors said his wound was clean, like done with surgical precision. No animal could have done that, no explanation. They kept him for a week. He doesn't talk much now. And when he does, it's in riddles. But I had to go back. Sam's bag had my camera inside. I didn't tell Derek. I went alone just before sunset. The forest felt heavier. The air didn't move. Inside, everything was as we'd left it, except for one thing. A door that hadn't been there before. A metal one, slightly ajar. On it was a handprint, burned into the steel, still warm. Inside the room, on a rusted chair, sat my camera. And next to it, Sam's journal, with a page torn out and nailed to the wall. It said, "This place doesn't let you leave. Not all of you. It remembers who you are. It's waiting." I brought the journal back. Last night, a page that wasn't there before appeared in it. A drawing of me, standing at the metal door. Underneath, in handwriting that looks like mine, were the words, "Why did you come back?" The whispers are louder now. And sometimes, in mirrors, I see a hallway behind me that isn't there. I think I left something behind that night. But something else came back with me. It was supposed to be just another late-night adventure. I had just broken up with my boyfriend 2 nights earlier. My best friend Dean said I needed a distraction. A road trip, maybe a haunted spot, just for fun. I wasn't really in the mood, but he insisted. "Let's just do something weird," he said, grinning like a kid. That's how we found ourselves heading toward an abandoned cafe from the 1950s, deep in upstate New York. Dean had read about it in a strange Reddit post. A forgotten diner where time stands still. Don't go after midnight. Of course, we went after midnight. Dean was the brave one, restless, curious, always recording things on his old-school camcorder. Me, I was the quiet observer, a writer. I took mental notes, noticed small things. That night, I was just along for the ride. I thought. We drove north for nearly 3 hours. The further we got, the more the roads emptied. Eventually, we were driving through complete darkness. No houses, no gas stations. Just thick trees on both sides and a fog that seemed unnaturally low to the ground. My phone lost signal about 20 minutes before we reached it. Dean joked, "That's how you know it's real." I didn't laugh. It stood alone at the end of an overgrown path. A rusted neon sign, half lit, read, "Sugar's Cafe open 24 hours. Dean checked Google Maps again. "That's weird," he said, frowning. "This place isn't on the map anymore." I looked over his shoulder. Nothing. Just forest. "That can't be right," I said. But deep down, it felt right. But the place hadn't been open in decades. The front window was cracked, and the red paint on the door had faded to brown. Oddly, the glass was clean. Too clean. "I swear to God this wasn't here last year," Dean said, adjusting his camera. The door creaked open with one push, no lock, no chain. The air was thick inside. It smelled like wet wallpaper, burnt coffee, and something else. Something sour, like blood on old metal. A wave of cold air brushed my face, even though the windows were sealed. Everything inside was frozen in time. Booths still had menus tucked into them. A jukebox stood in the corner, its buttons dusty. But the strangest thing? 2 untouched plates of pancakes on the counter, still warm. Dean laughed nervously. I didn't. As we moved deeper in, our flashlights started flickering. Dean smacked his. Mine dimmed to a dull pulse. Then we heard it. Click, click, click. Slow, like metal tapping against glass. "Turn it off," Dean whispered. "What?" "Your light, just for a second." We stood there, swallowed by the dark. The only sound was our breathing. Then clink. Something metallic hit the floor behind us. Dean turned suddenly. His light flared on for a moment, and we saw it. A figure in a waitress uniform, standing perfectly still in the kitchen doorway. Eyes hollow, skin gray, mouth stretched too wide. Then the light died. Dean screamed. Something scratched across his arm, deep. I dragged him out by the collar. We burst through the door and didn't stop running. Dean was in the hospital for 2 days. 4 deep cuts along his forearm. Doctors said it was animal-like. A week later, the cuts looked worse. Not infected, just wrong. The skin around them darkened, and a symbol began to form, a circle with 3 lines through it. I'd seen it before. On the jukebox in the cafe. But there were no animals in that cafe, only silence. And that face, I didn't sleep, neither did Dean. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I searched the name Sugar's Cafe online. Buried deep in an archive, I found a clipping. 1956-7, disappear in upstate cafe, no bodies found, case unsolved. The image showed the exact booth we sat in. The same jukebox. One of the missing. The waitress. A week later, Dean realized he'd left the camcorder behind. Against my better judgment, I went back alone. The cafe looked older now, grayer, like it had aged 50 more years in a week. I stepped inside, holding my breath. Everything was in place, except the pancakes were now rotting, covered in flies. I found the camcorder behind the counter, but when I picked it up, the screen flicked on, by itself. Footage started playing. Dean and I were talking. Then we walked into the cafe. But halfway through the video, something was off. In the corner of the footage behind Dean, a woman in a waitress uniform, slowly getting closer. But she wasn't there when we filmed it. In the final second of the tape, she looked directly into the lens and smiled. I took the camera, went home, and tried to show Dean. But the footage was gone. Blank. Dean doesn't remember seeing the woman. He says he doesn't remember the cafe at all. But last night, I woke up to something tapping on my window. Click, click, click. That night, I had the same dream again. I was trapped in one of the booths. The lights flickered. The smell of burnt sugar. The waitress kept pouring coffee. But when I looked into the cup, it wasn't coffee. It was full of teeth. And a voice from the shadows. Order up. Ran to the window, nothing. But this morning, I took a walk downtown. And there it was. Sugar's Cafe. Same red door, same neon sign. Somehow, it had followed me home. If you see Sugar's Cafe open 24 hours, don't go in, especially after midnight. Because the menu only has one item now. And it's you.